Hello everyone and welcome back to my opinion, and in this video I'll be reviewing the season of the Rajasthan Royals, who won the second eliminated today by 7 wickets. And I was surprised they won this game for two reasons. One being, from my previous video I thought that RCB had the upper hand going into this game. And two, Sanju Samson won the toss and chose to field first, and I thought this is a decision that could backfire for his side. And it's because they were playing to RCB's strengths. Now RCB are a side that's, for the most part, preferred to defend a lot of runs in the second innings. If you're comparing the attacks of Rajasthan and Bangalore, I think the Bangalore attack is much more subtle and usually gets into their work from the middle overs onwards. For the Rajasthan Royals, it does have a lot more X factor in it, and if you're comparing both those attacks, the Rajasthan's attack is much more likely to blast sides out from the start than RCB. And that's the reason why I think it's worked for RCB when they've had to defend quite decent scores. And if you've got someone like Hasaranga who has provided that extra edge for them in the middle overs, that's when they've really prospered with their wins, in my view. And I think if you're keeping that in mind, I think the Rajasthan Royals, had they batted first and got at least 160 to 180, then you'd be asking questions of an RCB batting lineup that effectively only half of the lineup is contributing. So with the Rajasthan Royals bowlers, especially their main four in Prasidh Krishna, Trent Boult, R. Ashwin and Chahal, and Obed McCoy, apart from his first two games, has been excellent. So I think the RR attack is probably looking the most well-rounded as it has done at any point in the season. I think finally they've got a case where even with their death bowling, it doesn't look as precarious as it has done at the start of the season. And in the last few games, they've actually been quite good at the death, probably apart from the game against GT in qualifier 1. So I think that with the way that both these attacks go, I think I thought at first that if Rajasthan Royals were defending 160 to 180 against an RCB side where, again, half of the lineup has been contributing, they would ask questions of an RCB side, dragging them out of their comfort zone, and should be able to win the game. And I'm surprised that they actually managed to win the game in the end, because with the way that they pulled things back towards the end of RCB's first innings, I thought was admirable. I think when the score was on 141, I thought that if they could restrict RCB to get less than 29 runs at the last 14 balls, they still may have a chance. Now 170 on the surface, looking at the way where even with the start that Rajasthan got in the first few overs, they still slowed down towards the end. And had Jos Buttler not hit those two sixes of Hasaranga, maybe the pressure would have continued to mount. And Dinesh Karthik dropped Jos Buttler, I think, when he was on 70 odd. So he wouldn't have been at the crease to hit those two sixes. And who knows what could happen from that point. So it was good that they didn't let them get to that. They didn't let RCB get to that 170 score. And in the end, they only let them score 16 runs off the last 14 balls, taking a few wickets as well. So I think that was a great effort from the Rajasthan Royals, and that momentum, even though 158 wasn't too bad of a target to set by the side batting first on a tricky surface to bat on, I think that momentum that Rajasthan gained from the latter part of the first innings also played a part in how they went in the second innings. And unfortunately for RCB, the first over of the second innings set the tone, and apart from the stage where Rajasthan slowed down towards the end, there was no stage where RCB were on top in the second innings. And even then, when they slowed down, you thought that it was just one or two hits away from being back in kind of more so in the Rajasthan Royals' favour. So great win for Rajasthan. And now getting into their season, obviously there's been one, I'd say, main star. Yes, the likes of Ashwin and Chahal have been brilliant, but Jos Buttler, 824 runs in 16 innings at an average of 58.85. This is certainly the second best season we've ever seen from a batsman in the IPL. 450s and 400s. And had he not played the way he did today, I think Rajasthan would have found it quite hard to even negotiate when it was 30 off 27. And Jaiswal has played quite well in the handful of games that he has played this season, and Sanju Samson has consistently scored these brisk 30s and 40s. But I think Jos Buttler, with the way that he played today, I think that had he not played this knock, Rajasthan would have found it quite difficult on a tough pitch. So especially considering today's game. Really well done to him. And when the bowling attack was far more precarious than it is now, I think his knocks, especially at the start of the season, made sure that Rajasthan could get wins when their team wasn't exactly at 100%. And that is a vital thing, honestly, because it shields your team. And if when you do grow into the season and you peak at the right time, especially with the way their bowling attack has been doing overall in the last few games, Rajasthan Royals look a much better side than they did at the start. And at the start, I thought, look, with some of the wins that they got, quite some jammy wins, you could say, what 3-run wins kind of, where if the opposition had played it better, then you would think that they would have been much closer to win those games. And you'll probably be getting far less of those wins in the last few games. And yeah, their bowling attack has peaked at the right time. And also, Josh Buttler, even if he didn't score a run after his first 7 games, I wouldn't have blamed him. I think he scored 500 runs, or 518 runs or so in the first 7 games. And even in the next 7 games, when he didn't really do too much, I wouldn't have exactly blamed him, because once you've got 600 runs or above, that's kind of, you've done your job. And it's up to the other players as well to also share the mantle. And apart from Sanju Samson, the other players haven't exactly done that too much. So Hetmeyer has been good as well, but I think mostly the onus has been on Josh Buttler and Sanju Samson as well. So I think that with what he did in the first half when the team wasn't at 100%, and then when the others kind of emerged a bit as well, especially the bowling attack, extremely well done from him. And as I said, the second best IPL season by a batsman, surely, in the history of this tournament. And the 2 spinners, Ashwin and Chahal, outstanding. I think for Ashwin, he's been more of the defensive spinner out of the partnership. And I think, look, I'm not surprised it has worked that way. The wrist spinner is the offensive weapon in the team. And Ashwin, 12 wickets in 16 games, also played his part with the bat as well. Vital knock, scoring 185 runs in the season. And also going at an economy rate of 7.35 has been, and it's been an outstanding tournament from him, honestly. Yuzvendra Chahal, 26 wickets in 16 games. He had an off day today. Now, I'll be honest, I actually wasn't surprised that he had an off day today. And I'm saying this because, look, we've seen, when we watch Chahal play cricket on TV, he is a bowler that does like to have his fun, does like to kind of have a bit of a chat in the middle. And generally, I think, I could honestly see him competing, or trying to compete that extra bit more, just because Hasaranga was in the opposition, and both of those are going neck and neck for the purple cap. Now, Hasaranga's got the purple cap after today's game, but Chahal does have an extra chance in the final to get it back from him. I thought because of that, if you're looking at a side that we do see from Chahal already, but I thought it would be kind of increased in this game because of the purple cap competition, I thought that he may strive for wickets and go for runs. Now, again, was this a concrete thinking? Then no, but when he did go for runs, I'm not surprised that he did go for runs. And look, again, of course, they should have. Again, they should play Chahal, I think, because again, you couldn't not. As in, just because you're foreseeing, just because I was foreseeing that, of course Chahal should have played this game, but I wasn't exactly surprised that he did go for runs, because I thought there'd be a bit more of a competitive edge. Had he been a bit more disciplined, or certainly rather, I thought played a bit more for the team on the day, then you saw what the other bowlers did, then I don't think RCB would have got to even 150. So that was a let-off for RCB, but overall the season has been outstanding, as you know, we've been used to in the seasons in the IPL. And yeah, those 2 spinners have by far been the best spin duo of this tournament. Prasidh Krishna, look, what? His economy rate is 8.17, 18 wickets in 16 games. But I think the reason why his economy rate is even at that point is because of what he's been doing most of the season at the death. At times he's been quite good, especially how he bowled today. But with the new ball, he's been outstanding. He's been constantly asking questions along with Trent Boult. And you could say he's actually had a better season than Trent Boult overall. I don't think, look, Trent Boult got 15 wickets in 15 games at an economy rate of 8.24. I still think on his day, he's still given enough good performances to say that he has had an okay season. He had a better first half than a second half, but he still has had a satisfactory season in my view. And especially today, he did ask questions of the batsman. And yeah, him and Prasidh Krishna, despite the fact that their death bowling is still a question mark, I think Abed McCoy's emergence has given them quite a lot less to worry about in terms of their death bowling. And if you're purely isolating their new ball bowling, then these two are a brilliant combination, Prasidh Krishna and Trent Boult. And yeah, I think the bowling attack as a unit overall with the death bowling looks to be more kind of sorted more often than not, considering the last few games. I think that they are in a much better position to take on the Gujarat Titans than they would have been earlier on in the season. They have lost to the Titans twice, I think, one in the group stage and another one in the in qualifier one. But I do think this will be quite a competitive game. And look, both these batting sides are quite frail, or quite fragile, you could say. But in terms of a bank that would really that you can rely on to get runs, Rajasthan have Joss Buttler and Sanju Samson. But you would say Gujarat have David Miller and Tewatia, but you wouldn't exactly say that you're expecting consistent performances from the other players. So I do think Rajasthan has a slightly more of an advantage going into that game. And speaking of Sanju Samson, look, 444 runs, it's an average of 29, a strike rate of 147. Now, with the average and strike rate, they are very good numbers. And if you're scoring 444 runs with kind of that average and that strike rate, it shows that you're contributing at least scoring 20 odd or 30 odd consistently every game. And mostly he has scored those 30, those brisk 30 odds, especially at the start of the season when Joss Buttler was really going big guns. Then Sanju Samson scored those kind of those innings that with quite high strike rates, 30 odds are quite high strike rates to propel the innings along. And that's the reason why I think that if you're considering those knocks, I think those knocks have been quite underrated. And yes, I think, look, I've said this about Mayank Agarwal in IPL 2020. So I think he scored 430 runs in the group stage itself. Punjab didn't make the playoffs. He scored 250s and 100. But 2/3 of those contributions were at the start of the season. And I think in the first 3 or 4 games. And I think in his case and in Sanju Samson's case this season, I think there was a case where, especially for Sanju Samson, who got to those kind of 30, 40 scores a lot of the time, most of the time, he could have made quite a few more half centuries than just 250s. And look, I think his innings have helped the team as well. 444 runs. He has had a good tournament. I think he just hasn't got that big score, but he still has played well. But had he just stayed around for a few kind of more overs longer, he would have got at least 3 or 4 more 50s than he did. And yeah, I think that, like I said with Mayank Agarwal, he'd be thinking that he would have wanted a few more kind of, even a few more 50s than he did get. I mean, right now you're thinking KL Rahul and Sanju Samson are probably the 2 most talented players in the country, you'd think. I mean, you can't, a talented batsman in the country, you'd think. I mean, you can't really, I can't really think of too many more players who are kind of in that level, especially as of now. Rishabh Pant is in the conversation, but when you watch Sanju Samson bat, when you see the sixes that he hits with the extra cover, I mean, it's just baffling as to how he hasn't kind of risen kind of further than what he has. And look, he does have the opportunity to do so, but I think that had he got a few more bigger scores kind of under his belt this season, and he is world class. He's in such good form, and I think he would also feel that he could have at times got a few more half centuries rather than just stopping at those 30 odd scores. But he still has helped his team, and there was a different dynamic in the first half than in the second half. I think the reason why in the first half things were okay, even when he scored 30 odds, is because Joss Buttler was going big in the first half of the season. And it was Samson's role as as well to kind of catalyze in the middle to end phase of the innings, and scoring 30 of 18 is a very good innings in that situation. And that's the reason why today, 23 of 20, a needless shot of Hasaranga, his 6th dismissal of his bowling. And you'd think that had he just stayed around, all they needed to do was win the game, then it would have also given him more of a score than he got. So I think there are things that Sanju Samson could do to kind of stay around, or hang around the crease kind of when he's batting, to get those bigger scores, because genuinely he is a world-class player. And that's on the rules, I guess. I mean, I'll be honest, was I convinced by them for the majority of this tournament? No. But I think ever since their bowling attack has gelled together and seems to cover all phases of the innings better than they did before. I think, look, at the start and in the middle, they had that covered, but at the death, it was a question mark. And you're seeing what I said about KKR and the Rajasthan rules, where I talked about that template where they would want to destroy the opposition batting sides before the end of the 15th over, so they don't have to worry too much about the death. What the emergence of the death bowling kind of has done for Rajasthan is that it gives them a more holistic, a flexible approach, I think. And I think with the players that they've got in this bowling attack, having a more or being able to have a more flexible approach does help them a lot. And that's the reason why I think the performance that we saw today with the ball, I think we can expect that in the final. And for KKR, you saw that template kind of disintegrated, especially in the latter half of the season. They completely lost what they showed in the first 3 or 4 games of this season. And I wasn't exactly surprised by that. So Rajasthan was having rectified that problem, has held them in good stead, and that's why they are in the final. And yeah, that's on them this season. And I think ever since their auction, there was a buzz around the Rajasthan Royals this season. I mean, a team being allowed to get Ashwin, Chahal and Trent Bolt for a combined total of 16.25 crores, I think is absolutely ludicrous. That too in a mega auction. I don't know what the other sides were doing. And I think getting those standout players with a bat and with a ball has helped them quite a bit. Hetmeyer's also had quite a good season, a better first half than a second half, but I still think with the way that he's gone, with finishing off the innings and also rescuing the team from tough situations, along with batting Ashwin up the order when need be. They have kind of at times batting Ashwin up the order has been I think they didn't want to expose the lack of batting depth that they have, and you could say they have succeeded in that overall. I think whatever we say about their lineup being precarious, against someone does seem to stand up, even if they score kind of a 20-odd, just to delay proceedings a bit, and then players like Riyan Paraga's ball to walk out and play shots. I think that in the end they have managed to prevent their lack of batting depth to be kind of exposed. And with their bowling attack, how it's been going this season, I think they do look a very good side. And yeah, for the final, look, both sides are fragile batting lineups. And I do think in terms of bankable plays to get those runs, Josh Butler and Sanju Samson seem to be... It's a stronger, reliable core for the Rajasthan Royals than it is for the Gujarat Titans. But the reason why they would also feel confident is because they've got players who are in form. I think David Miller and Rahul Tewati especially, no one expected them to be this good. And I think that in terms of who's got the extra belief, I'd have to go with GT. And I do think GT would win the game. I just think that they've had such a great season when no one really expected them to be kind of bowled this well this season. And I do think that the GT will win that game, but let's see how that goes. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, please share it with your friends, and remember, this is my opinion. What's yours?